What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the NASCAR Racing 2003 Career Mode. Today, it's the 12th race of the season, and it is our first race at Charlotte. I'm really excited for this race. I really like mile-and-a-half tracks. I feel pretty comfortable at them. I think we have a really good shot at getting a good points day today, and so that'll be a good way to recover after what happened at Hickory last week. This race will be a bit of a longer one. We've got 100 laps at Charlotte, so there will be multiple pit stops. There'll be some strategy involved. We'll see how we get on with that. If this is your first time watching, welcome to the channel. Be sure to go back and watch the rest of the episodes of this career mode. This is the 12th race, and so you can kind of go back and get kind of a bigger picture of what all has been happening, where we're good, where we've struggled, who our rivals are, and stuff like that. And speaking of that sort of thing, let's get right down to the point standings. We find ourselves fourth after our rough go at Hickory, but just look how tight the top of the standings are right now. I mean, I'm in fourth, and I'm only 12 points off of the leader, Bobby Labonte, right now. Even Jimmy Hensley, who's down in seventh, he's only 77 points off. If he can string together a couple of good results, he can find himself up in the top. Any of these guys can have an opportunity to really break away here with a string of good results. I'm hoping the driver that does break away at the top is us. So without further ado, let's get right down to Charlotte for the green flag. Alright, we are off at Charlotte. Harry Gant, the pole sitter, will lead the first lap. Chuck Bound's trying to make a move on the inside. I don't know if he's going to be able to. There's not a ton of room down there, but I like the runs that you get off of the corners when you run a little bit higher up. I think it allows you to set up passes a little bit easier on this track. Had to check up quite a bit, though. Was running a little too high. Now Chuck Bound is on the inside of us. Alright, so we're kind of settling here into third now. Already I can feel the car starting to tighten up just a little bit. It was a little loose on stickers, so I'm glad that the car has kind of tightened up and kind of come into its own a little bit here. Got to pass for the lead here. Chuck Bound looking like he's going into the lead. Hasn't won a race all season, even though he won the Busch Series in 1990 in real life. Oh, Chuck Bound almost closed the door on Harry Gant. That was pretty close to an accident. Harry Gant had to check up big time. Now we've got a run on him on the outside. Let's see if we can get by him and get into second. We've got quite a good run on Chuck Bound now. We might be able to get around him. I want to try to pass on the outside. Yeah, passing on the outside is something that you can actually do at this track. I really like the way this track feels. I like the way this car feels. I don't expect to be able to pull away too much because since this is the Busch Series, the cars have a little lower horsepower. So there's not a ton of lifting that you have to do in the corners, which means that the draft actually becomes somewhat of a factor on this track. So I don't expect to be able to pull out too much because if I get far enough away that I lose the draft, the cars behind me are just going to be faster. But as the field starts to spread out, that may change. It's hard to say. I'm also trying to consciously drive a little softer into the corners, save my tires a little bit. There's no use getting out a huge lead over Chuck Bound when eventually we're all going to be stacked together again. But if I lose my tires, I won't be able to compete in the longer runs. And I think that's going to be really important on a track like this, on a race like this that's so long. But I definitely feel like I'm getting into a groove. Somebody was stopped there on the inside of the track. Not sure what that's about, but okay. I guess looking at the standings, it was Davey Johnson. A little loose on exit there. The car still feels really good. I think it's really kind of set up for it to be a little bit more of a long run car. It was a little loose at the start of the race, which is okay. That means that once the car kind of settles into its groove, it feels great. The pit window is kind of between like 30 and 35 laps. That means you could almost stretch it to be a 3-stop race, but that's kind of risky. Definitely going to try to stretch the fuel as long as we can go in order to try to get a 3-stop race in. But if a caution comes out anytime before lap 30-ish, it will pretty much guarantee a 4-stop race, which is fine. So far, so good in this race. We've really found ourselves in a rhythm. The cars behind us are still behind us. We're not leaving them. They're not really gaining on us, which I think is maybe a little surprising to me. We've got an over second gap now. Back to second. Second is Dale Earnhardt. So who knows how long this lead will last. He's going to be charging towards the front, I have a feeling. I'm really kind of in awe right now in the stark contrast between the last race at Hickory, where I hated the track, I just never felt comfortable, I struggled all day, and now we come here, and I just feel right at home. I feel like this track feels so good. We're doing really well, putting a little gap between us and the rest of the pack, and kind of just cruising around, waiting for either a caution or the first set of pit stops. Since we're just kind of cruising around, now is probably as good of a time as any to talk about the difficulty. So I think in my Daytona video at the beginning of the season, I think I mentioned that I was going to make the difficulty 85%. I've been kind of scaling that up periodically since then as I've gotten better, simply to make more entertaining races, to keep things competitive. If I left it on 85%, I would have already lapped half the field by now, and that's not an exaggeration. So especially when I'd go to a track and would do really well, I'd kind of take note of like, okay, maybe I should up the difficulty. That's part of why I did worse at Hickory this time around, is because I did have the difficulty set higher. All the laps I was running were actually, I think, faster than the ones beforehand, but been kind of scaling up the difficulty. But I think I'm kind of approaching the point where I'm going to kind of stop doing that. The race today, I have the difficulty at 97%. I think that difficulty is enough to where I have a shot at winning most races, which for the Busch Series, you know, we kind of want. The Busch Series is going to be easier than the Cup Series, and so, you know, I'm okay with having the Busch Series be a little easier. Once we get to the Cup Series, I'll probably put it on 100, if not more. I've run a couple of practice races at percentages like 99 and 100, and I've found that depending on the track, it's tough for me to compete when it's at 99 or 100. You know, I could get a win here and there. I can run with some of the top guys, but I would not be running away with it like this. So I think it'll make Cup racing really interesting to set the difficulty a little higher. But in the Busch Series, again, easier series. So it shouldn't be surprising that we feel pretty comfortable here and we can have some success. Got about 8 more laps on our kind of pit window here. We've taken pretty good care of the tires. I can definitely tell that they are starting to wear. Can't drive it into the corner quite as much. I mean, I got to really let off, and you know, I'm kind of stamping the gas a little bit to try to induce a little bit of rotation, but car still feels really good. It doesn't feel like I'm fighting a tight car. So I do think the setup is pretty good, if not a little loose at the beginning. Being able to run up here in the clean air, you know, like I said earlier, I think I kind of expected to not be pulling away from them so much because of the draft. But I think as the pack has kind of spread out some, the more spread out that everything becomes, the less of an impact the draft is going to have. And so I think the cars behind us, as they are kind of spreading out within their own little pack, they don't have as much impact on, as much help from the draft. And so, you know, that's going to help us create a little separation. They're still going to have to deal with passing each other and racing in traffic, and I'm fine. If they want to battle for second, that just makes it easier for me to pull away in first. So pitting on lap 34 is my target. I'll stretch it to 35 if I think I can, but 34 right now is my target. We're getting onto lap 29 right now, and you can see in the lap times right there, slower. Obviously my fast lap is going to be through with things like the draft and slingshotting and stuff like that. Qualifying, I found that getting about a 32-second lap flat was pretty fast. In fact, only one guy got faster than that, and that was Harry Gant on the pole. Yeah, you can see we've lost 5, 6, 7, even maybe 8 tenths now through tire wear. So we're also finally catching up with a little bit of lapped traffic. I don't see the guys behind me. They're 6 seconds behind. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how far we can go. I don't want to push it. I don't want to run out of gas. That would be far worse than making an extra pit stop at the end of the race would be running out of gas. Yeah, there's some cars starting to come in now. But I just have a feeling if you come in now, you're not going to be able to go on 3 stops, and that does scare me just a little bit. If for no other reason than, if the longer we stay green, I think the more likely that we'll stay green the entire race. I am a little bit worried about the 66 car. I have a feeling... and the yellow flag is out. I see it up ahead of us, so I'm going to kind of approach it kind of cautiously. There's nobody behind us directly, so... I'm going to go ahead and start saving, because I want to make sure that I can make it around back again. Looked like Morgan Shepherd was the cause of this. Let's see what happened here. Going into turn 3... Yeah, and just kind of got into the 11 car there, Jack Ingram, and caused a little bit of a pileup. Looks like the worst. Well, look at Robert Presley turning Dave Resendez there. Morgan Shepherd and Resendez definitely got the worst of it for sure.
Turn 2. Go, go, go! Keep it under 60. Keep it under 4,500 in second. Okay, you're clear of pit lane.
I think quite a few people had already come down pits. I mean, we saw a few, but I think a good number of people were pitting or coming down to pits or leaving pits when the yellow flag flew. Yellow flags during pit cycles always complicate things, gets people in different strategies. It might trap people laps down. So that definitely shakes up the race a little bit. I'm trying to save a little bit of fuel. It says we've got 33 laps of fuel left, and we've got 66 laps to go. So that's pretty much exactly splitting it in half. So definitely trying to save a little bit of fuel so I don't risk running out. But if we can pit just one more time, that would kind of be the goal. I don't know if anybody that pitted earlier, I don't know if they can make it on just one more pit stop. It's going to be tough to see. It'll be interesting to see what kind of strategy plays come from this. So already, there's only 9 cars that are quote-unquote on the lead lap. There are cars that are technically on the lead lap. The 3 of them in front of me, Elton Sawyer, I think that's Tommy Ellis, and Dick Trickle. They're quote-unquote technically on the lead lap, but for all intents and purposes, there aren't. There's 9 cars, including myself, that are still on the lead lap. So again, that really shakes up the strategy. And if we can only stop one more time, we're going to get really lucky with this strategy call. I know there's been a couple races where we've had some questionable strategy calls. We've been bitten by a couple of questionable calls, but crossing our fingers, so far so good. Things are looking pretty good for us. The question will just be, can we survive this restart? Bunching the field back up again, anyone who watches NASCAR knows that that can lead to more cautions. So hopefully we can come out and survive the restart here. We got a little bit of little loose. Oh, we got into Steve Grissom, and we're gonna fall way back there. That was not what we wanted to happen, but I'm fortunate that we didn't end up wrecking. Certainly changes our outlook of the race though a little bit. Hopefully we don't have too much damage on the side of our car. Oh, Bobby's gonna dive underneath me, and we're sliding back up again. And I'm really struggling all of a sudden to keep the car off the wall. I'm going to have to fall back a little bit. Try not to get wrecked into here. And I don't know what happened with the car when we put new tires on it, but all of a sudden it became a real handful on that middle and upper lane. Yeah, I don't know what's different about the car now. I don't know if the track has heated up a little bit or something, or cooled down, and the car just feels like it's sliding up, wants to slide up the track a lot more than it did at the beginning of the run. Um, so we've definitely got our hands full to try to work our way back through this field and try to make up some of these spots. The car just wants to slide up so much that I think passing on the outside's got to be what I do. I don't know how much that damage has affected our speed here. Try to slip it underneath Patty Moyes. Oh, did get a little bit of loose there, but now that we've kind of gotten back into the run, you know, the car's kind of coming to me again, and I'm feeling a little bit better. This setup is definitely designed for those longer runs. As the car tightens up with the tire wear, the car feels better and better. It's just something that I kind of got to keep in mind, because at the beginning of a run, especially on a restart after yellow flag pit stops, it's tough to drive it, and that makes things really interesting. A little over halfway through this race now, and you know, the questionable, like, yellow flag right during the middle of pit stops has actually really been huge for us, because since we're kind of struggling to move through this pack, you know, we're kind of trapped at what is the back of the pack, but we're only 9th, so really it's kind of given us a little bit of a safety net, and I don't know what's happening here, going much slower in this little group of cars. I think that car in the middle is definitely off the pace a little bit. I'm just gonna have to see if I can squeeze in here. See right there, slid way up the track, and I'm thankful that Robert Presley had kind of backed out, because otherwise I would have slid right into him. I tried to dive it low, and I just don't feel super comfortable on the bottom of this track. I feel much better trying to cross over like that, come off the high side, get a run. Once cars start to get a little more single file, it starts to become a lot easier to pass. You know, I can pass them on the outside. Coming out of 3 and 4, I can cross over. We've got 44 laps to go here, and we've got 14 laps of fuel. So that actually means that, yeah, we have a little bit of a cushion, and we can probably make it on fuel if we stay green the whole way, which I think would be great. We do still have quite a ways between us and the leader. Mark Martin's about 11 seconds ahead of us, so that's a lot of time that we've got to make up. I'm not even sure if we really can make that up based on what little damage we might have to our car. We are slowly making progress on the leaders. A couple of tenths every lap if we're in clean air. The question is just simply going to be, do we have enough time to really catch them? Wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of cars come down pit road in the next couple of laps. Jack Ingram in the 11. That's the next car for position. Let's see if we can make a pass on him here in the next couple of laps. Car's definitely tighter. Got to slow down quite a bit going into the corner. In fact, I might actually start braking a little bit.
Car inside. Deep high. Clear.
We're able to get around Ingram there. The high side continues to work. And Billy Standard's there right in front of us. I think that's also for position. Yes, it is. He's coming down pit road, though. He's making his stop. We're getting pretty close to the window here. I mean, I think if I pitted on lap, 67, I think I'd be good. I'm going to try to go as far as I can. If I can make it all the way to like lap 70, that just gives me a little bit more security. Based on my projected laps, it's close. I'm probably going to target 68 if we can make it that far. I'll be interested to see once we have fresh tires what the fresh tires are like when it's not bunched up for a restart. I think that's Davey Allison right there pitting, maybe. Yep, I saw him. So we should lead this lap.
You're back in the lead.
I'm not going to pit this time. I'm going to pit the time after that. But it also depends on if there's any traffic near me. You know, actually, we're pretty free right now. Dale Jarrett right there behind me. He might start catching me next lap. I actually might try to come down this time.
Come on in. That car's a lap down. Keep it under 60. Keep
I don't want to risk spinning out on pit entry, so I'm going to take a pretty conservative entry into pit road here.
That car's a lap down. Go, go, go! Limit 60. Okay, merge when you can.
That pit stop probably took a little bit longer than we might have hoped to repair some damage. We might have gone a lap down here. Here we are. We're just one of the first cars a lap down here. We are still sliding up the track even with fresh tires. If we stay green, I think we can kiss winning this race goodbye. I would like to try to get back on the lead lap and see if we can get ourselves back into around the top 10. Definitely this car is set up for long runs. I'm actually not able to really get much ground, not really able to make a pass here on a short run. But once they start to tighten up and slow down a little bit more on corner entry, I can kind of sling it around on the outside. Dale is looking like he's going to try to pass Mark Martin. I don't think I can pass anybody 3 wide. Dale's making it 3 wide. He's making a really aggressive move underneath. And you know what? I might try to follow him down there. I don't like passing on the inside. All right, got a good run here. See if I can get around Mark. Tommy Ellis. Oh, I touched the apron. Everybody get around him. If I'm not mistaken, Dale Jarrett is leading this race. So that's the guy right up there, right in front of Dale. That's the guy we got to pass if we want to get back on the lead lap. And then we're just kind of hoping for a caution. This feels like the part of the run where our car really thrives. We're making up really good ground on both Dale Earnhardt and Dale Jarrett here. And if they get stuck on the bottom behind Elton Sawyer, we might be able to... no, not this corner. And yeah, and they're going to make it 2 wide, so it's going to be tough to pass on the 3 and 4. See if I can dive it underneath Elton here and get around him. And we have maybe passed Jarrett, and that's enough to get us back on the lead lap. So, again, if we stay green, I don't see any way that we win this race. In fact, I don't know if anybody can catch Jarrett. Mark Martin's not too far behind, but he's got a lot of ground to make up in 20 laps. Right now, we're just trying to stay on the lead lap, hope for a caution. And if we don't get it, well, then we just kind of take what we can get, I guess. About 20 laps to go, and you know, we're still riding around. We're doing okay. We're making some passes here. We're in the top 10 now, which is great. We got about 20 laps to go. I can see Harry Gant, Dick Trickle. That's that 2-car pair right in front of 15 of Jeff Purvis here. If we can cross over Purvis coming into the tri-oval. All 3 of the next cars we can see are for position, so hopefully we can continue to ride well here and scavenge a couple of extra spots here, a couple extra points. I'm very thankful that the top 10 is littered with non-full-time drivers. So that means even if we don't win, you know, we're not losing points on anybody today. Pretty big risk to try to pass underneath here. I'm going to back way out because I just don't want to wreck anybody. It's a little late to risk trying to get into a wreck for something like that. Art Presley looked like he was going to try to block Gant. Let's see if he dives in underneath him here. Oh, I tried to dodge him. And oh, we're sideways.
Here comes the leader.
And no caution here. And that was basically throwing away everything we had worked so hard to claw ourselves back to. I was getting a little too aggressive with Robert Presley. I wanted to try to swing it around outside of him. He checked up a little harder than I kind of anticipated for, and that's going to cost us a lot. And now we've got a little bit more fighting to do. Now it's really just, can we get back to the lead lap? Can we pass some of these guys here who are for position? Tires are definitely shot from that slide. One thing to think about here, though, I wonder if we'll see anybody run out of gas. I don't know if I've ever seen an AI car run out of gas. I don't even know if they can, to be honest. But I pitted a couple laps after a few people, and I've only got about 10 spare laps. So yeah, some leaders are pitting. So what's that going to mean for us? Where are we going to fall in the grand scheme of things? We can make it. Oh, this is all of a sudden, this has changed everything. That means that Mark Martin right in front of us is actually the leader. Wonder if he's going to have to pit. That's Dale Jarrett there to our left. He was the leader. Now he's a lap down. We just passed him for position. Yeah, Mark Martin's slowing down. So I have no idea what this could mean for us. I think we can make it. We were one of the last ones to pit, and we're going to try to stay out on fuel. I don't know who all can. We're up to 6th now. That's Mark Martin. We're going to slap behind him, and I think that might put us in 3rd? I'm unsure. Oh, we have old tires. It's going to be really hard to pass Mark. We clear him. I'm fighting with everything I've got on these old tires right now. Davey Allison, Greg Sachs, myself, I'm in 3rd. I've got to try to hold off Dale Jarrett. 2 more corners here. And we will really back our way into a 3rd place finish. Gonna close the door on Jarrett at the bottom. He's gonna try to make the pass out of the corner, but we're gonna block him, and we're gonna come home in 3rd place. What a race that turned out to be. Obviously, it's easy to say, like, well, if this hadn't happened and this hadn't happened, like, we could have won, but had we stayed out of trouble a little bit, or, you know, had we not repaired some of that damage, had we taken a little bit less time on pit road, I mean, Davey Allison actually ended up running out of fuel. He will finish 1st, but he actually ran out of fuel. Look, a lot of people have now run out of fuel. What a race that ended up being with all the different strategies and a lot of people running out of fuel towards the end and people having to come into pits there. Only 6 cars actually ended up finishing on the lead lap. We kind of got lucky with our strategy. We pushed it an extra lap or 2 on the fuel, and it kept us from having to come down pit road another time. So, but that was a really fun race to run. Really just kind of confirms how much I love Charlotte, especially this version of Charlotte. I'm really looking forward to getting into the Cup Series in a year or two and racing a few more intermediate tracks. Those are a lot of fun to race. If you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any future upload. Leave a like if you enjoyed this incredible pit strategy fuel mileage race at Charlotte. And I guess that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.